Welcome to this InterAcct demonstration on the General Ledger system, and particularly the chart of accounts. This is a typical main menu that we're looking at here, and as you may see, on the menu list is the General Ledger as number 8. That is controlled by the security access, so you can preclude people from getting into the General Ledger, of course. So I'll select the menu number 8 for the General Ledger, and it brings up the whole General Ledger menu here, as you can see. And what we're going to do is go into menu number 1, which is the General Ledger chart of accounts. I'm going to do that now. It comes up automatically with the search screen. You can search on any combination of these particular fields, including of course the description, but the main search is just on the General Ledger account code. Now, if I want to find the repairs and maintenance account, I just need to type in the first few letters. Let's just type in REP and press the enter key to start the search. And as you can see here, it's brought up a list that matches that search, and one of them is an asset, 3 expense style accounts. Let's just call up one of those accounts to have a look at it. Now this is a pretty typical General Ledger account that we're looking at within the InterAcct system. As you can see, the account code is not a numerical one in this instance, but alphabetical. Now you can have any chart of account code that you like, of course. This is just an example that we're looking at here. But we do generally recommend a alphabetical chart of account code. The reason being that if you're in let's say a creditor's invoice where you need to select the expense account that you want to allocate a creditor's invoice to, you don't need to remember the account number, so it does often reduce the number of transcription errors. So you just need to type in, if you wanted to find repairs and maintenance, just what I did there, type in REP, press the enter key, and it will bring up that quick search list. But what we've now done with InterAcct is allow you to search not just on that account code, but also when you need to find a General Ledger account, you can just search on any part of the account description as well. Or indeed, we have a field down here called the alternate account, which may be your old General Ledger chart of account number that might have come if you've upgraded for the likes of MYOB, for instance. You may want to continue to use that, or some people might be familiar with those numbers. So you can type in that number there, still have all the advantages of the alphabetical chart of accounts there, and either way it will find the account for you. By the way, the help text down here at the foot of the screen says this is the account number or code, and it goes on to say you can structure your account code in a macro to micro fashion. That is the broadest thing first, which might be to break it up by, as it's suggested here, by sub-account, by division, or by department. And it's just saying don't leave spaces in your General Ledger account code. In this case, we've got a little separating full stop. You can see too that this account has been grouped in the category account group called expenses, which is the operating expenses here. And then once you select the operating expenses, the subgroup in this case is motor vehicle. But you can have any number of different subgroups within a particular heading. In this case, the heading is expenses and the subheading is motor vehicle costs. Alright, and over the side here, it's asking us, is this a control account? We can go off and view the control accounts within the system. That's where the system does the double entry bookkeeping for you automatically when you're putting in an accounting transaction. And that happens almost all the time with an InterAcct. You don't have to know the account codes, they just happen automatically. It asks you whether this account is involved with fringe benefit tax, research and development, or indeed the Export Market Development Fund. And it also asks whether this account is broken down, in terms of this case vehicle maintenance, by sub-account or indeed employees. So you could get vehicle maintenance broken down by employees. In this case we're saying yes, so we can go down the lower menu, see monthly a summary of those costs by employee. Does it include GST? And that's just saying when you get an expense coming through, does that expense already include GST, which of course being vehicle maintenance it would normally be the case. Alright, so and it's also allocating the debit and credit BAS codes for GST purposes, this case G11, so you can look up those different BAS codes. This is a normal acquisition style code, so of course it's G11 in terms of your the BAS return for GST. Okay, so that's the setup of a typical general ledger. If we wanted to, we could go into view accounts by a group and subgroup, and so here we could go and look at all operating expenses and then go and view these subgroups and go and see motor vehicle and then see all the accounts within the motor vehicle heading, if you like, or in terms of subgroup. Well, that's really enough. I'm just using the escape button to go back now to the general ledger menu. This is not a full demonstration of the general ledger system. It's just purely looking at the general ledger chart of accounts and the advantages of using alphabetical account coding. What we're going to do next is go into the accounting menu and show you a typical transaction. We'll select creditors' invoices to show you how you can use those search facilities to find the right general ledger account. Okay, so what we're now going to do is go and select the accounting menu, number 7 off the main menu here. And here's the accounting menu. We're going to do the accounting transaction being creditors invoices, which is shown as number 22. So I'll just click on that. It comes up automatically once again with a search screen. In this case, it's searching on creditor invoice transactions because you can keep a history of many years of transactions if you need to. We're not going to bother searching because this has got no transactions in this little demo system at the moment. This is just showing you a list of invoices. Now what we want to do is add one. Now we can just press enter to add, or indeed click on that big green plus button at the top of the screen there, or indeed the plus button on your keyboard. That'll put us into adding a transaction. Now here we are, we've got the blank transaction. It tells us we're adding a new record for creditors invoices in case we're confused of what we're doing. And the first field, of course, is the invoice date. So I'm just going to put in today's date, being the 20th. And I'm not going to bother with the month and year. I'll just press enter. It'll default to the current month and year, as you can see. Now the next field is the creditor ID, and it brings up a search box. And if we want to find the creditor, we've got a repair fellow called Loxton. So I'm just going to type in LOX, press enter. It brings up a list here of creditors. You can see Loxton Smash Repairs is the first one on the list. It's now asking for their invoice number, alphanumeric of course. And now it's asking us for what is the invoice value, and down the help text it's saying invoice value including GST, in case you're confused. Let's put in $200 here. Now it's calculated the GST content automatically, but it does allow us to edit that figure in case there's a rounding error on the invoice of a cent or so. It allows us to tie it up with the creditor's invoice. Next thing it asks us, is this approved for payment? It's defaulting to yes, but you can default that to no, not approved for payment. So that if you're using the automatic EFT payment system, it'll only select those invoices that have been indicated that they're approved. Or you might say that the invoice is currently in dispute for some reason or other and want to track the progress on that dispute as well. So, okay, it's approved for payment. It's already calculated that we're paying these people, this creditor, 30 days after month end, so it's calculated the expected payment date is the 30th of July. We can change that if you wanted to pay earlier or slightly later, and of course that's going to affect the cash flow reporting that the InterAcct system is going to provide you, predicting what payments are going to be required to pay creditors, just the same way it predicts what cash is coming in from debtors. Okay, so the last field is a little comment just saying what this is. It's come off automatically off the creditor's master file record. We could put the vehicle registration number in that, and that will allow us to search on invoices by a registration number if that was applicable. But the invoice, of course, could be for several vehicles. Okay, so that's one half of the transaction that we've entered, which is the creditor's invoice in total, and you can see that's got an unallocated portion over here. Haven't done anything yet. And at the next menu, we could be receiving costs against a purchase order that we've raised previously, or indeed what we're going to do is go straight to an expense allocation where there's no purchase order that's been raised. We could have costs relating to jobs or costs relating to stock, but those two transaction types won't ask us for a general ledger account code. It's only this one where we actually are going to be asked for a general ledger, so that's what we want to show you. Searching on general ledger. Okay, so I'll select menu number 2. Nothing there, of course. I can again press the plus key to add, or just the enter key to add an expense allocation of allocating this $200 that we've put in. Right, so I'm pressing enter. Now, the next question, it says search on general ledger account code, and it's brought up the search box, and just like I did in the general ledger chart of accounts, if it's repairs and maintenance, I can just type in the first few letters, press enter, and it brings up a a list automatically, matching that particular search. I'm just going to expand the box here, and as you can see, it's number 5 on the list, the one that we were looking at earlier, repairs.mv from vehicle maintenance. Now, if that's the simplest way to find the account code. But as I said before, what you can do with that search screen, I'll just call back the search panel again so you can search. You could just search on, look, this account code contains, so see I've just clicked on the contains button there, contains the word maintenance. And I'll just type in part of that. We don't want to type the whole thing necessarily. Press enter again. And you see it's found the same account code, but in this case it's just searched on the word maintenance that was contained within the description. When you select that, it's brought in the correct account code. But in the same way, if you use that alternate number, such as your old MYOB or Solution 6 number in your chart of accounts, it will still find you that correct account code. Alright, well, let's just move on now that we've got our correct account. It's displayed the description there in case we were confused, so it's just verifying things. Now it's asking us to enter the amounts either excluding or including GST, as you can see there. And in the help text down the bottom, if you've got several figures that you want to add together that are coming off this invoice, you can just type in maybe a couple of figures, in this case including GST. I've got 120 and 80, press enter. It's calculated correctly that we're allocating $200, the addition of those two figures. Once again, it's worked out the GST content, and we can make a little narration change here if we want to, as I say, put in the vehicle, we can. Now at the next menu, we can start to allocate that against employees, and to say who was the employee, it brings up a list of employees, and we can say whose vehicle was it, and we might say it's Rex's, he was the factory foreman, and that's the net amount of the expense after GST has been taken out, being shown there. Alright, so I'm just using the escape button now. We're back to seeing the creditor's invoice in total here with the $200, and now the unallocated portion of the invoice is 0. In other words, we've got a fully allocated creditor's invoice, and of course so too with GST, we've allocated the full GST amount of $18. And there you can see a breakdown, like we've got a kind of a split screen here happening. Alright, that's as simple as it is. So you can see the advantage of having alphabetical account codes. You only need to remember part of the account code, or indeed the account description, or if you want to cling to your old account numbers, you can use those as well. It doesn't matter, the system works out, and it's all posted off automatically to the general ledger. If we want to see that, we can go into the general ledger posting file, which will show you the double entry that's been created automatically. Just from that, it's put in the GST accrual here, and also the repair net cost to going against the vehicle repairs, and of course the balance going against the creditor's control account. All we had to indicate was what was the expense account. We didn't have to nominate all those three. The control account system within InterAcct handled it for us automatically. So that's just showing you a perfect general ledger debit and credit entry. So that's all automatic.